Welcome back. You're now watching the political segment on the Weekend Show. Finally, before the deadline, the Chief of Staff to the President submitted the list of 28 people nominated to be ministers in President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's cabinet. We understand that this may be one of two lists. However, interesting to note that the list comprises of 25% women, which is a huge increase from what we've had in the recent past. We also have 4 former governors and 3 currently serving legislators. What's the impact of this list? Will these people be able to fix the problems which Nigerians claim to be facing or are actually facing? Do we trust the competence capability of these people? And are we recycling old people to fix different problems? Joining us today we have
We have Honorable Ibrahim, who is the National Coordinator, Task Dynamic Support Organization. Good morning and welcome back to the show. We also have Senator Jimoh Ibrahim, CFR, who is a lawmaker on Ondo South Senatorial District. He has 9 degrees with 2 PhDs, several honorary PhDs. He's building probably the biggest private university, Fortune University in Nigeria, in Igbotako, his hometown in Ondo State. And we have, coming back on the show, Onoja Ilemona, who is a legal practitioner and public affairs analyst. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Morning.
So we'll start with you, Senator. Nigerians had anticipated this list for a while. We saw a lot of lists which ended up being fake, but now we have 28 people submitted to the National Assembly. However, this list was submitted without portfolios attached to the names. Do you think this affects the screening process, or does this provide a wider window to interrogate the candidacy of the of the nominees?
Well, without prejudice to what will be discussed on the floor of the House in terms of screening those gentlemen and ladies on the list of Mr. President, there's nothing wrong in providing a list without portfolio. Remember, the President can reshuffle his cabinet at any point in time. So if you give me a list and say XY will be in charge of petroleum, and I decide to interrogate him based on that list, and after 6 months you change him to women affairs, I didn't interrogate him on women affairs. So obviously speaking, I don't think it's a yardstick. What we're looking at is this person competent? The Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria should be capable in serving the nation in that capacity of a minister. Portfolio is subjectively objective. Objective to the president that you want X to serve in Y ministry. And then, of course, subjective to Nigerians in the way you feel like A may be better because the professor might be better in the educational sector. So that's why I say it's subjectively objective. So we cannot crucify the president for not providing portfolio attached to the names that is submitted to the Senate for screening.
Elemona, how would you assess the overall quality and inclusivity of the nominations?
There is more than a little disappointment amongst the generality of Nigerians. And the disappointment exists for a number of reasons. One, I mean, this is a president who much vauntedly was prepared for office. The names on that list could have been submitted within 2 days of his. There's nobody that is a surprise. Well, maybe with the exception of Dr. Aliyu Pate. I think with him, there's nobody without him, I mean, him excluded. There's nobody who's really a surprise there. Did we really need 60 days to submit the names of people on that list? It's this whole thing that we have started where we take forever to establish a government. President Obasanjo, once we got back into democracy in 1999, took 6 days to submit his ministerial list. In 2003, I think it took 30 days. In 2007, longest ever under a PDP government, late President Umaru Yar'Adua took 54, 55 days, I think. This new business of waiting forever to set up a government, when the economy is tanking, when security is being eroded constantly in front of our eyes, and people are being killed and losing property, that whole business of taking time, that the Nigerian people don't have. It makes me wonder. There's nobody who couldn't have been named minister. I mean, is there anybody on that list who you didn't expect to be on that list?
It's good that you bring that up because you're a member of the People's Democratic Party and the president has tried to be inclusive. And so we've seen the name of a former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, who is in your party, who worked against your party and is on the list. Is that a surprise? And what's the position of your party
Everybody
on that?
knew that. And everybody knew he was going to be on that list. Everybody knew that. It's part of the political arrangements that they had before the elections. He was going to be on that list. Whether he's in that list, whether he's on that list as a representative of the People's Democratic Party, we'll leave it to people to determine. But everybody knew he was going to be on that list. My point and the question I ask is, what was the waste of time for? What was the waste of time for? We knew who was going to be there. There's nobody who's surprising there. The jury is out on competence, capacity, and the ability to deliver. Now, I most respectfully disagree with distinguished Senator Ibrahim when he says that there's no need to include portfolios. There is a need, because that I am competent to be a health practitioner does not necessarily mean I'm competent to be Minister of Science and Technology. It doesn't necessarily mean so. It means that, and where including portfolios helps the Senate, which is established as a watchdog to ensure suitability for offices. It helps ensure that we're screening your background on the basis of your suitability for office. Now, if you're a member of the All Progressives Congress or the PDP, you should be able to mention to the president or give recommendations. The Senate should be able to give recommendations and say, we don't think that this person is suitable for the role that you have earmarked him for, even though we believe that he's competent or capable. So,
let me just react a bit with due respect to my colleague. The issue is not about how long. That's a constitutional requirement. 60 days. The president acted within the provision of the Constitution. The issue cannot be discussed. You cannot disparage the president because he's bringing the list within the stipulated date that the Constitution specifies. An act specify bring your list within 60 days. The president did that. There are procedures and processes by which ministers are selected. State involvement, domestic socialization of the environment to ensure that the appropriate person emerge at the state level. Security clearance of people that are selected. You can't do this in 2-3 days. Now, coming to his statistics, he said that Obasanjo did that in 8 days. Well, that's good. But you look at democratic government from Obasanjo day to the present day. Buhari didn't do that in 7 months. Why did not submit any list to Senate up to 7 months after he was president? And that is the reason why the Senate decided to make that law that you must submit within 60 days because of Buhari. Buhari was just there doing everything alone. Now the idea that security are breaking down and all that. One single individual as a minister can do nothing. The army are working, the minister is not a soldier, is not. Ministers are just for policy distillment, to the process and the people. So it does not mean that because somebody has not been appointed as Minister of Education, the university will not award their degree at the time that the student graduates. These are not the real issue with due respect. The key point is that Asuwaju has submitted the list within 60 days. It's within the constitutional requirement. There is no law in Nigeria that says that when you submit list of ministers, you should bring portfolio alongside. Which law that says that? It's an exclusive prerogative of Mr. President. And lastly, the senators are very competent. We have many diversified colleagues in the Senate from various aspects of life. So we know what question to ask the minister. It's not also our duty to start rejecting ministers selected by the president, because we are not president, we are not going to select one for him, except we find out that somebody is not worthy of being a minister by virtue of his character. And that is the job of security agency. I cannot just by my own biasness say X is not competent, is not. Professors are on that list. Can't you see it? I mean, do you think I will sit down here in the television or in the Senate and disallow a professor to become a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria I say kudos to Mr. President. I rarely say this. If I see professors appointed as ministers, I'm very excited. I have 2 PhDs. I have something to celebrate. San Fagbemi is there. I'm a lawyer of 32 years standing, or 34 years standing. I see Fagbemi accepted to be minister in Nigeria. Congratulations to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Excellent gentlemen that are there. At least the little I know. A young lady from Harvard, 36-year-old. I went to Harvard. I did masters in Harvard, LLM law. Somebody did medicine in Harvard, and that person accept that we serve under Aswaju. Incredible. The government must have performed some magic to get all those people. To get me as a minister, it takes you a lot of effort. I don't just consent easily.
So, Senator, will you be okay with the usual take a bow and leave during this?
No, we don't take a bow. We take a bow out of respect. A senator who has served before coming to be interrogated by his colleagues, who is also a senator. How do you look at that? For example, the majority leader, deputy majority leader in the Senate, Governor Umaya, is coming in for screening. He was a governor, he just immediately passed governor of Ebonyi. Didn't he perform? He did excellently well. Let's Nigeria commend what is good. What is bad, we condemn it. What is good, we commend it. Didn't he do well? He did excellent. One of the best performing governors in Nigeria. Now he came to the Senate as first time. He became deputy Senate leader. Now he's coming before us again, and they want to ask him questions. What is it about him that we don't know in the Senate? But if for formality's sake, we can ask him, as an engineer, how do you consult load and all that? We don't want to waste our time. The Senate is a respected institution. It's an institution with high level of integrity, with people composed there as, top echelon of the society in all aspects of life. I am there. What do you think I go there to go and do? If I have to sit down there and not know my left from my right. So to me, I respect my colleague and what he has said. I understand where he's coming from. He wants things to be done as fast as possible. But again, you understand that mistakes are made where you don't go through the processes, where you don't do a lot of distillment. This is very, very important. And I think that it's not so bad. So far, so good.
Honorable Ibrahim, I'd like you to join the conversation. Can you share your thoughts on the nominations, and what do you think were the criteria used to select?
Thank you very much, AIT, distinguished Senator.
Thank you, Albert.
Well, I am a party loyalist. I belong to the party, and 100% I support the party. And the party chose to elect President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to CFR. And if your loyalty is not going to be that of 100%, then there's no need to do any loyalty at all. Therefore, what he chose, what he select. And remember, he always said he hit on the ground running, and that's what he's doing. You can see working here and there, and his vice outside Nigeria and doing the needful things. Those guys that he selected, just like the distinguished senator said, I don't think there's any question to ask about them. The nomination is okay. We with the party were happy about it. The members of the party agreed, and the time within the stipulation of the constitution is okay. Submitted within 60 days, just like the Senate, the 8th or 9th Senate, they amend the part of the constitution to, instead of opening it in a basis of any time and all that, they're limited to 60 days. And within this April meeting, they have submitted the list. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I also will applaud with the majorities of applaud those nominations, and we look forward to see how they can make things around. We're happy for it.
I'd like to quickly jump in before you move on. Respectfully, the issue isn't about whether or not there's a constitutional provision for time limit within which to submit a list. There's a constitutional provision. We know that. It says 60 days. We know that. So that's not the issue. Respectfully, the issue is that you form government as quickly as possible, particularly once you take into consideration that we're in trying economic times, that we're in trying security times. The president in his inaugural address announced a major policy change. You don't have a CBN governor still till now. You don't have a minister of finance to dictate your fiscal and your fiscal policies. You don't have a monetary policy directive. You have National Association of Resident Doctors on strike. You don't have a Minister of Health to help you spearhead negotiations with that sector to get Nigerians back to getting affordable health care. You have an educational challenge on your hands. You don't have a Minister of Education to dictate your educational policy. Really, the question isn't about whether you did it within time, The question is, fundamentally, and you must ask and answer that question, that giving regard to the pains, suffering, losses that Nigerian people are suffering on a daily basis, have you done your best to quickly, decisively dictate a policy that ameliorates their suffering? The answer is a resounding no. We're at a time where the earnings of Nigerians is probably been eroded, what, how many 100%? We pay, what, maybe 200% extra for fuel, right? We pay how many percent extra? There is food inflation at what, 25, 26% on a monthly basis? You have no Minister of Defense to help coordinate your defense and your security apparatus. Really, the question, it has to be, you've taken your 60 days. Have you responded as quickly as possible on for the behalf of the Nigerian people? It cannot be.
So,
you have to see a disparity. And let me tell you, I say most respectful, and I'm being very respectful. These are elderly gentlemen who are much older, but I am bringing to you feedback from the proletariat, the Nigerian people who don't necessarily enjoy the benefits of your party loyalty or of the Senate. We are suffering on a daily basis. And if the feedback that you should take from people like me is, to Mr. President, is that you're not acting quickly enough. We don't have the benefit of passing emotion where you are laughing and you're saying, oh, let the poor breathe. The poor are not breathing.
Okay, so I'll let Honorable Ibrahim, then the Senator, respond, but just to clarify, I recall there was an initial industrial action proposed by the National Labour Congress where the President had his advisors meet and that was resolved. I also understand that as of yesterday, the resident doctors situation, they've now been granted some additional wages. And also for security, the President had appointed a special advisor on security, who is now the NSA. And so the fact that you mentioned this, I just want to state that even though there's the gap of ministers, there were advisors who were put in place to help manage that.
The National Association of Resident Doctors yesterday rejected that new proposal for wages. Stated. The Nigerian Labour Congress yesterday in their meeting walked out and said that Mr. President is taking them for children and treating them with kids' gloves. Remember that. State the full picture.
Yeah.
State the full picture. The people...
But moves are being made. And I understand this as someone who is spending 4 times what I used to spend on fuel in a week right now. So I understand your position. But we'll give you, Honorable Ibrahim, room for feedback and then the Senator. So please.
Well, I am also still maintaining what actually we're here for. We're talking of stipulation of the Constitution on the 60-day submission of the ministers' list. There's no any lapse. It is within the period, and they have been submitted now. They are going for screening 1 month or 2 months or whatever. The other company like CVN governor, economic advisor, minister of health or whatever he names, those one can come later because there's no stipulation. The National Assembly made it very clear. That is the area we're talking about. In fact, government is a process. He came with a policy and he's working on the policy. Nigeria will make a situation that nobody ever said that such thing will happen. And where we are. So we're not packing all things together. The Constitution is still where it is. He made up the Constitution deadline. This is the standard one.
Yeah, thank you very much. What amazes me here is, what are you discussing? Are you assessing the success or the impact of Tinubu administration? If that is the case, the answer is no. If you are looking at how fast he has worked, or what are these initial strategies, the early win games? Fantastic. I studied strategy in Oxford with a degree. So you cannot tell me what are the parameters for assessing an early win strategy of a 60 days government. The minister must be there. Who is the minister? The minister is just one individual who is just the ministry is a bureaucratic system. Understand that? Exactly. So the bureaucracy is there. The system is fortified. You know, we have things that go through the processes. So minister cannot just come because labor is going on strike, then you are a minister. Stop, don't go. This is not a military government. You have to go through the process. There's a director in charge of every of these union and all that. You pass through that until you come to the minister. And the minister is not an autocratic minister. So when we are discussing this issue, do you want Tinubu to breach the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
The answer is no.
The answer is no. You are saying things are hard, things become hard yesterday or in 60 days?
But there's the promise of renewed hope where
the promises
he
cannot be
has said-
fulfilled in 30 days
Could not
or
be
in 60
imagined.
days. You understand that? We are dealing with 350 million people. You are talking about, look at the variables. I love to talk with data. I don't want to talk as my spirit directs. I want to talk with data. What are the basic data? What is GDP to debt ratio? 70%. What is GDP to revenue? 7%. 93%. For every 100 naira you have, 93 naira have to be used to pay debt. That was what the previous government left behind. Then 7% is the only thing you have, 7 naira, to pay salary, to do these policies, to do this program, and pay all the things you need to pay. These are the variables. I don't make the variables. The variables are made, by Bureau of Statistics. So if you have 93%, revenue to GDP, what really can you do in 60 days? Just a minute. And if you have 60%, 70% debt ratio to GDP, what can you do? You're talking about central bank policy, economic policy. The 2023 budget was approved by National Assembly, isn't it? Yes. So do you think that you need everybody, are you going to do a new budget? Supplementary budget will be approved by us in just 1 week or less than that. So what exactly is the issue? The early winning strategy is engage. The strategic engagement in the operational system is super. They are fantastic, and the president is doing well. You cannot, because the country is going to war. I did PhD in war at the British War College. You cannot say because you are going to war, you must breach constitution. The constitution stipulates specific things, and you must obey those things. If you want to be in office.
Senator, let me just
Yes.
interject.
Yeah.
I'm also a PhD candidate in security
Fantastic.
and strategic studies.
Candidate, congratulations.
Yes, and but what's important is that, as we both know, in
Yes.
strategy, two things can exist at the same
Fantastic.
time. You represent your constituents.
Yes.
Would you admit that your constituents are happy with the economic situation which we are facing right now, since the fuel subsidy was removed, which is what he is trying to talk about?
Yeah.
The people in the rural areas, even in the urban areas, do you think they share your sentiment on how things are right
I don't
now?
think anybody is happy. Forget about my own
Okay.
constituency that
Yes.
price of items has gone up. But tell me one country in the world that are happy with the economic situation.
I just wanted to clarify
No,
for the masses.
No.
Yes.
You cannot do things in isolation. You are a PhD student. You do data analysis and data fine-tunement. The key point is that tell me one country in the world that is happy with the price of fuel. How much is a liter of fuel in the UK? £1 what? That's over 1,500. Variables set
But
variables.
with
other values.
but
So
with
what I'm telling you
variables,
is
they
that
also
it's
have
not
their
about setting
standard
out.
of living.
Yes, fuel prices are okay, they are up. Nobody agree with that. Nobody is happy with that. Unfortunately, we don't manufacture dollar, which is the variable that determines the price of petrol. We may produce petrol, but we don't define them there. So there are lots of issues, basket of issues of cumulative state failure, tangentially dated back to 1960, which you want to be solved in 60 days. You must be a magician.
You promise renewed
Nobody's
change.
looking for a resolution in 60 days. Nobody's looking
Give
for a
time, you will see
resolution in
solution.
60 days.
How much time?
Hold on.
1 year, minimum.
Nobody's looking for resolution in 60 days.
Yeah.
What people are looking for is strategic direction. And you've mentioned repeatedly in your presentations, respectfully, you've mentioned repeatedly your background in strategic studies. You cannot stand up, set out from Lagos, that you're coming to Abuja, face Port Harcourt, and expect that your passengers should not say, hello, you're going the wrong direction. We don't have the liberty of this time that you're talking about. And what we are asking in the time frame that is or that has elapsed, show us, I mean, you didn't need 60 days to increase the cost of our living almost 300%, did you? You didn't need 60 days. The constitutional provision is not more than 60 days. It doesn't say you can't do it in less. In fact, and that's what I'm saying, do it in less. Show us commitment. Show us A commitment to improving our lives, welfare, and well-being. Ask anybody here in the studio, there are almost 20 people here, ask anybody here in the studio, our cost of living has gone to the point where we almost cannot live. I say this most respectfully to all the gentlemen who are here. I think that there's a disconnect between your class and ours, because on our side, as we say on the street, Sakpa is almost killing us. As we say on the street, hunger, our take-home pay is not taking us home. There are comforts that you people have provided for by the federal government that shield you from that reality. And I'm bringing the purpose of that reality to you, that this time that you're talking about, the Nigerian people do not have it. We're increasingly unable to pay fees for school. We're increasingly unable to pay rent. We're increasingly unable to fuel our cars. We're increasingly unable to take care of our families. We're increasingly unable to be secure. Now, and I must say this, I'm sorry, we're here now, it's a political segment. Most distinguished senator, you're saying that, oh, the variables of the last government. You supported the last government all through its time. And then you're now trying to disclaim the variables that last government gave to us? You can't do that.
I disagree with you, with due respect. I didn't support the last government. I didn't bring Buhari into government. It's for anything, you know what my companies went through under Buhari. You will be economically untruthful if you don't acknowledge that. And now I fought those wars.
I'm unaware of
exactly. And now I fought those wars up to Supreme Court. I'm not Buhari apologist. As far as I'm concerned, the problem of Nigeria didn't start today. The problem of Nigeria is the cumulative effect of state failure from 1960. From security angle, are you not in this country when Jonathan, in 2005, left 8 billion positive balances in the current account? Buhari came in 2 years, he depleted the foreign reserve by 18 billion negative. What are you talking about? 18 billion leaving your treasury in one day? I mean, and you think you can just recover it in a few minutes or whatever it is. 11,886 federal government projects are abandoned. 3 of those projects are 60% of national economic GDP, the value. They are at Jakarta, $6.5 billion spent into waste. Is it Tinubu that constructed that? Now, second Niger Bridge, are you not aware that Buhari said is 36% completed, $5.6 billion wasted? Sure P. Are you not aware of Sure P in this country? Yeah. Now go out there at the bus stop, stop the taxi, and say, take me to Sure P head office in Abuja. Nobody knows where the head office is. $5.5 billion gone. Add these 3 figures together, what does it give you? 60% of Nigeria external loan. Who did all of this? Why don't you bring them to books? And then you are just, we cannot be here. I'm not going to antagonize you privately. I mean, we are just talking national interest. You know, that is the issue. Yeah. The issue I'm telling you is that Asuwaju is not behind 11,886 federal government project abandoned. That is my PhD thesis already published, by Mark Miller. You know, that is from University of Cambridge. Now, beyond that, I didn't investigate how many state government projects are abandoned in Nigeria. I don't know. How many local government projects are abandoned in Nigeria? I don't know. How many federal government projects, not mega, are abandoned? I don't know. But I know 11,886 federal government mega project. Mega project means above $1 billion committed. Are abandoned in this country. Is it Tinubu that abandoned those projects? So what can anybody say? We are now in 60 days to try and see, and within these 60 days, we have 7% GDP to revenue available for spending. And lastly, let me also say this, and my friend also know that you can Google it. What is the cash forecast ratio of our GDP? Our GDP is 515 billion. That's the worth of our economic size. With 1% cash element, Google it. Cash to GDP, 1%. Poorest in the world. It's a simple analysis. Assuming you bought First Bank today at 500 billion, you have 300 million to withdraw in First Bank. First Bank only want 1% of 500 billion. How do you as a manager manage that? It's a big, there are converging complexities around economic development that Nigerians who left government supposed to be called back to answer questions. I'm not comfortable with the fact that we will sit down, a new government will come, Asuwaju will be there, and then he will not ask questions from the previous government. I strongly disagree. Everybody should come back to the table and see how was this country run to 1% cash, 1% cash value to GDP of 515 billion. Come on.
Senator, it's interesting that you mentioned this. and we've shared contacts, and so we
Yeah.
will continue to be in touch with you,
Thank you.
to hold you accountable in the Senate, because we've heard about party loyalty, and
Yes.
we expect, because what he is doing, what you are all
Yeah,
doing,
it's
is for
doing
the
very well,
improvement
for
of
the interest of
Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Is because we all want better, which is why you are in the Senate. So we will continue to hold you
you
accountable
very much.
and bring you back on conversations about the economy. But
Honorable Ibrahim, you had something
yes.
to say?
Yeah, before you add that, Honorable, I just want to state,
Yeah.
he has been an avid supporter of the APC
Yes.
for the last 12 years, let's
Yes.
say that. I find it weird that with people such as yourself who supported the Buhari government and Asiwaju's administration, why do we have people who were already appointed as special advisors, people who have already been elected into the Senate, now being called back to be ministers? What happens to the likes of you and millions of other capable Nigerians? Why do we have to play with a small pool after waiting 60 days? Are these the only Nigerians who are capable? Because I see people like yourself.
Thank you for asking that question, but let me also answer to my brothers here, especially a household name like Jimoh Ibrahim.
Yes.
In fact, before Dangote could reveal Jimoh Ibrahim, everybody knows him. I'm from Borno State, actually knows.
Thank you,
They
sir.
they convert the economy into our discussions, but we are talking about the constitutions, the framework of the constitution, submission of the ministers and the rest of it, which Mr. President meet up the deadline. That one, no doubt about it. The question you ask about the submission, this is the same APC continuation of government, continuum of the same government. There are mistakes here and there, definitely. We are not saying definitely there's some mistakes there. And I thank you, the Senator, because he's knowing and he has the knowledge. He has defined everything. The fact is that Baba Ahmed Tinubu, he came out with the mindset, with a very good foundation that Nigerians come. Let's correct the mistakes. Is there anything bad in doing something? For God's sake. This is a country belongs to all of us. He has done nothing. Therefore, wait, let us see in a few days to come, or few months to come, things will set up. He is not a man who wants to come and squander. He has everything. He has everything he has. He doesn't need nothing from Nigeria. He only feels that I want to contribute my quota at least. And who is doing that? His children are not intervening, nobody is intervening, things is working normal and things is going well.
People had the same hope with President
Inshallah,
Buhari,
that's what it's going to
but
be.
It took 7 years, and we've seen the changes. I mean, and I understand what
Buhari,
saying.
a deliberate, they ask him the questions.
Yes.
There are Buhari is up to tomorrow. As a human being, he has no problem on himself, but the system come up about
That is
sharing
why
him.
they brought him,
And
because
he made the
trusted for
mistake. And he
integrity.
also, he paid the chance, he agreed with the mistakes.
Did he
We
have
liked
a
him therefore admitting his mistakes. But this one is not yet to blame anything yet. There's no time
too
for,
early.
yes, too early.
I wouldn't say it's too early because there were lots of promises made pertaining to policies that he already had established to
He
make
said
when he
all
becomes
the promises
president,
he said
and
it.
he's become president. And
President
60
Bola
days
Ahmed
has-
Tinubu said, I'm removing subsidy, and he did it. That's a
Were
promise.
there
On
no
his-
A
palliative
man.
proposals?
Yes.
Were there no palliative proposals?
nothing
Are
wrong
you
with
not
anything.
aware of the tax reform? You don't know the tax reform's impact in
Oh.
reducing the
So
prices
things is
and
working
controlling
fine.
inflation?
Look at farms now. Go to the north and see the farmers now.
But talking about tax reforms,
Yes.
so just yesterday,
Yes.
FIRS has said that for the first half of this year, they've recorded 5.5 trillion
Yes.
naira. And it goes back to what I was saying about two things can exist
still
at
talking
the same
economy.
time. When the president removes the full subsidy, what Nigerians are saying, the palliatives and the effects to cushion it should have been listed side by side. Maybe that wouldn't have led to the panic which also caused inflation, which has now affected even your businesses, like you will admit. But
That
waiting-
will drop with time. Are you aware of the Infrastructure Commission agency that will be established in 36
every
states of the
state.
Federation? And you are aware,
And
are you
eventually
aware
local
for the
government,
first
every
time
local
in the history of Nigeria that the allocation for last month was 1.4 trillion, two times of what has been never recorded in the last 10 years. That means the subsidy added to the amount to be distributed to the states. And what is the impact of that? State will have more money to pay their salaries and then be able to do the Infrastructure Commission and have distillment into the economic reality of the people. It will take a bit of time. Let's get it.
Senator,
You know this.
But when
it can
have
be
we
in
seen
one day.
anything go up and come down?
No. In 1 year, you will
It
see
comes
some,
down. A lot
some
of things
benefits
goes up
that
and
will
come
be
down.
surprising, particularly when you have next year budget. Because now you are constrained as a state governor when you don't have funds coming from federal account. All of us depend on federal accounts. Now, last month, 1.4 trillion was shared. That's the first time in the last 25 years that amount, that kind of amount will be shared.
We comment that, but a quick question which I must ask because we are running out of time. The president promised 35% inclusion of women and youth. We have 25% right now. Is he going to meet up with his promise of 35%
35?
when the remaining part of the list comes in?
You have currently 28 names.
Yes,
out
we have
of
25% of women.
Exactly. So you see, no, you prorata the percentage of names to the women in cabinet and youth, and then look at the remaining names.
Yeah.
And do
About
your data,
14,
adjust
right?
your data. You probably have SS.
No, but we are saying this so that we can also have it on the record because we must hold
I am
you
not. I
people
don't speak, I'm
accountable.
not a
Accountable,
spokesman to
absolutely.
Mr. President, but I can tell you that I'm in Nigeria who operate within the context of reality of the data. You want my colleagues want the popularist policies to be distilled as fast as possible. I agree with him, but we are saying that the complexities involving in 36 states of federation, 350 million people require more than 60 days for things to really actualize. What you are telling me, you cannot blame Tinubu by saying he didn't give you 35%. 28 names representing X percentage is already more than the number required. So when you adjust it to the unsubmitted name, you are more than what he promised.
Which
And they
is why I
have fulfilled that.
commended him
Exactly.
for even the 25%.
Exactly, excellent. You said that at the beginning of this
I
interview,
did, and
I
I
really
give
agree with you.
credit
Let's
where
also have
it is
patience a
due.
bit. You know, if he doesn't perform, you can ask him to resign. What's so special about that? You know, yeah, if you get a time limit, but you cannot. For you to say he's not performing now, you need to come up with the data, and then the early win strategy. Don't you have, you know, this allocation increment, this infrastructure commission, this restructuring in tax system, the submission of the list of ministers, and what can come out of that? Then the serious economic policy. He said in his speech that it will affect abandoned project at federal level. So I expect that Jaguda come on straight. Do you know that 25% of Nigeria budget today is spent on importation of iron? So if you complain at Jakarta, you free that from your budget, and you can spend that one, you know, into the national development. So these are the issues that I think we really occur in a few days to come.
Ilemana, before we go,
Final thoughts.
Final comment.
Final thoughts. I'd like to hold a commitment. Commitment. Most distinguished senator,
Thank you.
1 year from now,
Yes.
I challenge you, 1 year from now, that we will come back to this studio. You said we should give
On
1
this
year.
show,
Yes.
yes.
On this show.
Yes.
I will come anywhere in the world, God giving us life. I will remind you that a government that starts like this, impoverishing its people, because a great number of our people have left its middle class into its poverty class.
Questions.
A government that starts like that, right? A government that doesn't, that says, oh, you know what, I'm not going to, there's a constitutional limit, so I don't necessarily have to bother with speed. A government that gives you incoherent policies at best. I've removed subsidy, I've not given you a plan for what's going to go on with that. And let's even talk about the list that brought us here. It was 28 names. The constitutional requirement is that you should have submitted 36 names. It says that you must give federal character, one minister from each state, and you must submit that list within 60 days. By submitting 28 names, you haven't met the constitutional requirement. You simply haven't. So, we have what we have seen, what is on demonstration, is a government that is not committed to going the whole hog to effect its constitutional mandate. I would like to come back in 1 year and remind you that
we'll
I
put a
said
pin
that.
on it, but we do have a commitment. God's given us life. In 1 year, we will review what has happened. On our own part on the weekend show, we will commend where we feel credit should be given, and we will criticize where we feel it is due. And in that light, we must tell Nigerians that beyond the federal government, you have your state government and your state governors to hold accountable. You have your state houses of assembly to hold accountable. Beyond what happens at the federal level, you have seen the allocations given to the state government. You need to hold them accountable in the same way we hold accountable the federal government. That's the much we can take on today's episode of The Weekend Show. My name is Andy Madaki. You can follow me on social media at Andy Madaki on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Threads. You can follow The Weekend Show at The Weekend Show NG on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can follow Didi
Adidi _ on Instagram and Twitter.
Once again, I want to thank all our guests for their honest input, and this is what it's about. This is for Nigerians and for the benefit of Nigerians because we want a better Nigeria. Do have a blessed weekend and see you next week.